Game week is finally here. Game day just 2 days away. Tennessee, Ohio State, the college football playoff first round. Who's going to win? It's a Locked On crossover. We'll tell you here in a moment.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, good Thursday, everybody. Welcome to Locked On Vols and Locked On Buckeyes. I'm Eric Kane alongside Jay Stevens, a Locked On crossover edition ahead of the college football playoffs. We're going to have a whole lot of fun here talking about the quarterbacks, talking about the running backs, the defense, the game picks, all that and more. And couldn't do without our friends over at TNT and ABC and all the places that you can watch the college football playoffs this weekend. You don't want to miss a moment of the action. College football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games. Again, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. So it's going to be really, really fun, man. Jay, it's the first year of the expanded 12-team playoffs. One of the best things about this. So there's a lot of things that need to be fixed and tweaked, but teams get to host games on their own stadium, right? And that's what Ohio State gets to do. And how are the vibes been like, leading into game week coming up this week and kind of getting back out there? Obviously, a disappointing loss to Michigan the last time out, but some time has passed since then.
Some time has passed. The vibes are getting a whole lot higher than they were the last time the Buckeyes played. And as you get to hear the coaches, Ryan Day, Chip Kelly, Jim Knowles, talk to the media, you're getting some sense of coaches taking accountability, Jim Knowles' confidence in his unit, and the players really realizing we got to lay it all on the line, which is exactly the mindset right now. You can't go into this game and thinking, we can just bring our A- game. No, you got to bring your A+ game. You got to bring your A++ game. You got to put everything out there and lay it all on the line because this could be your very last game you play if you're Will Howard or Emeka Buka or Lathan Ransom or any of these other seniors at Ohio State. So I think the vibes are a whole lot better than they were the last time the Buckeyes played. But I can't shy away from the fact that the last time the Buckeyes played was against the rival that has a 4-game winning streak. They beat Ohio State 4 times in a row. That's still lingering. So the fact that the vibes are a little bit higher than you may think, that's good. But the effects of that loss are still hitting the Buckeyes. And I don't know exactly what to expect from them. I know what I think they're going to do, what they should do. But the pressure from that game is still being felt Saturday. That could be bad for Ohio State. Or, Eric, they could use that as fuel against the Volunteers.
Yeah, I mean, that's it right there. Are you going to linger? Are you going to stay in the past? Or are you going to rally and use that as fuel, like you said? And we'll have to see. I don't know Ohio State's makeup and the roster like I know Tennessee's, obviously. And that's something I've been trying to communicate the last couple of weeks. It's like, I mean, in terms of vibes, man, Tennessee fans are pumped, man. They're winning they're stealing tickets. They're getting the tickets. They're going to invade the shoe. And, we'll see exactly how many fans are going to be in there. Of course, we know the official allotment was like 3,500 at the university, but the secondary markets are popping. But yeah, Tennessee fans always travel. Tennessee fans are always pumped and have confidence. And there's a lot to be confident about with this football team, don't get me wrong. But also, I'm just kind of sitting here like, okay, like Ohio State is going to be a better Ohio State, you would think, is not going to look like Ohio State did its last time out. Like, sure, they didn't win every game the way they wanted to, but they played very well this year. They won 10 games this year, scored a whole lot of points, and looked pretty impressive in the other loss against Oregon. Like, that's a really, really good football team. I don't think we're going to see that version of Ohio State 2 games in a row. We'll see. Tennessee will take it. But, like, I think Tennessee obviously is preparing to get Ohio State's, best matchup. And I think, when the matchup was announced in Selection Sunday, I was just like, Ohio State wins. Okay? And I think Ohio State's got the better roster. I think Ohio State has more talent overall because they've been recruiting and been playing in these games a lot longer than Tennessee has. And we'll get to the game picks here in a moment, but as we've gotten closer, and maybe I'm just kind of falling into the trap, but as we've gotten closer, there's a lot to like about this Tennessee game anyway, but there's a lot that I like about Tennessee winning this matchup. Have you kind of felt that? At least on the national media, CBS sports analysts, that they had 5 of their 8 guys pick Tennessee to win. College Football Network, I believe, had Tennessee to win. There's Tennessee feels like Cole Kubelik said this is the easiest pick in the first round. I don't know about that. What have you felt about going into this matchup in terms of Tennessee-Ohio State?
I wouldn't say it's the easiest game to pick at all. That's the one thing I would not say.
I completely agree.
I am very much back and forth. I mean, literally before you hit record, I'm thinking, Well, I got a number in my head. I could easily see Ohio State being on either side of it, the winning side or losing side.
Same.
So I'm not saying it's the easiest pick. I do think that both quarterbacks are really talented. Both quarterbacks make mistakes. So it's trying to figure out, how do they bounce back from said mistakes? How does a defense handle the offense that Tennessee has? How does Tennessee's defense handle Ohio State's offense? I think it's going to be a massive chess match. I honestly am surprised the spread's as wide as it is.
Agree.
I think it's more of a 3.5, or 4 would be where I would probably put it, because I think these teams are a whole lot closer than Vegas, FanDuel thinks that they are. I think it's a whole lot closer, and I think it's just literally flip a coin. Tennessee wins this day, Ohio State wins this day. I think it's that type of matchup.
Yeah, and I mean, you and I have kind of talked about this before when we caught up right after Selection Sunday. I think this is very similar football teams. You know, both teams want to run the football. Tennessee's doing it at a better clip right now. We noted. I'm going to ask you about that here in a moment, about the injuries up front for the Buckeyes. But both teams want to run the football. Both teams stop the run at a very high clip. Both teams are very good on third down defensively. Both teams are very good in the red zone defensively. Both teams are, Ohio State is very efficient in the red zone offensively. Very similar teams. And so I'm with you, man. I think the spread, and we'll talk more about, what we're going to take in terms of this in segment 3, but I think it's way too wide. I would probably have Ohio State favored by a couple, and really it's because you're the home team, and that's not nothing. I mean, that's going to be a factor that Tennessee is going to have to fight through. You're going to have, Tennessee is a heavily penalized team, very heavily penalized team. Can you control the pre-snap issues, procedural issues, hold your water, all that type of stuff, right? Tennessee's going to have to fight through that. On that note, I asked you about Ohio State's offensive line a couple weeks ago. Obviously, I know the Remington Award winner, Seth McLaughlin, he's out. He's not playing. I know another starter on the offensive line is out. Kind of where is Ohio State in terms of who's playing where on that offensive line?
So since the last time we talked, Ryan Day's given us a lot more clarity about the offensive line, and I don't fully think it's the right move, but it sounds like the same thing Ryan Day said early in the year, that there's going to be a guy rotating at a guard spot. Luke Montgomery has not started a game this year. He came and played a little bit. I think it was at the end of, was it the Oregon game? There was one game he came in a backup role because somebody got hurt. Luke Montgomery is going to rotate at guard, maybe left guard, maybe right guard, but he's going to rotate with Tagovailoa and Austin Sherfield. I think all three of them. Shabola has been the starter at right guard most of the year. He's also the weakest link on the Buckeyes offensive line. I think that there's only going to be one change is a benefit for Ohio State. So you're not rolling into a massive game like this with 2 new starters, 3 new starters, stuff like that. The issue I have is rotating guards or moving a guy from left side to right side. To me, it's very dumb. This isn't basketball where you're able to rotate. You have 5 starters, and then you got a 6th man, and you got 4 or 5 guys on the bench.
You don't do that on the offensive line. You can do it defensive line, linebacker, wide receiver, running back. It's not like, I'm with you, man. The offensive line, like, come on now, you got 5.
Eric, thank you, because I've been saying this for a long time. I said it early in the year when Ryan Day's like, yeah, well, we got guys that can swing and play center and guard. I'm thinking, I don't care if they can play both. What are they going to play?
No.
You're telling me you're going to play a guy that's going to play because he deserves an opportunity? I don't care about that. You may deserve an opportunity, but are you the best guy? Are you the right guy? And maybe Luke Montgomery is the right guy to play. Start him. Play him. Don't rotate. That's stupid. And that's one reason why I'm a little bit nervous about this game, because if you're going to tell me you're going to play a guy in that hasn't really played at all this year and say, oh, he's going to rotate, you already have an offensive line that's banged up. They ain't going to play a guy that's inexperienced. To me, that's a recipe for a disaster.
Having said that, Tennessee will play 2 right tackles because Tennessee's played 2 right tackles all year long. The starter, who they would play all year long, he just can't make it through a football game. But Tennessee does play 2 right tackles. At times Josh Hyple's done the whole rotating thing, but it's never been a clean like 5 in, 5 out, or 3 in, 3. It's never been like that. It's been like, okay, every third series you go in at right tackle or something like that. I'm not a huge fan of that either, but Josh Hyple does do that some. So, again, back, obviously the starting center's out. the starting right tackle, right? He's out, or was it the right? It's the right tackle that was out, right?
Left tackle.
Left tackle. Okay, so center and left tackle, and then you're trying to fill the gaps in there. Okay. Cool. Well, we got plenty more to get into. Let's talk about these quarterbacks. Let's talk about these running backs, the wide receivers, skilled players on offense. Who has the edge in regards to the opposing defense? All that and more as we continue on here with a Locked On crossover. It's Locked On Vols and Locked On Buckeyes. Stay tuned. I do want to tell you guys about my friends over at the College Football Playoff. And obviously, they're all of our friends because it is the best time of the year. College Football Playoff, it is back, and with the new expanded 12-team format, it's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever before, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you and I love. TNT's sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff kickoff pregame show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, leading into the first matchup with the Southern Methodist University Mustangs battling the Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers looked to upset the Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 o'clock Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoffs presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. It's the College Football Playoffs. All right, welcome back into a Thursday edition of Locked On Vols and Locked On Buckeyes. I'm Eric Kane, Jay Stevens. We're talking about Tennessee and Ohio State, first round of the College Football Playoffs. Let's talk about those quarterbacks. You mentioned Will Howard. From an outsider's perspective looking in, here's my opinion on Will Howard, and I'd love to get yours on Nico. Will Howard's fine. He's got mobility. He's not a dual threat, but a guy that can tuck it and run. I think he's got like 7 rushing touchdowns. He's not a liability. However, he is not a difference maker. He's got a lot of talent around him. He is a reason why you can lose a game. He is not a reason why you win a game. Am I wrong? Is that too harsh? I think Tennessee's got to accelerate that clock, bring pressure, and invite him to make a wrong decision, because I know that the weapons that he has around him are really, really good. I think Tennessee's got to dial it up and make things hard on him.
No, I think you're spot on with that. I think Will Howard is the guy that's not a difference maker. He's a guy that's more of a game manager, not trying to use it as a negative connotation, because literally every quarterback's a game manager. But he's more of a guy that just lets the game come to him. He needs pieces around him for him to be good at his job, for him to excel on the football field. You mentioned pressure. You mentioned speeding up his clock. That's what happened against Michigan. I have never seen him this year with his clock sped up so rapidly that he just can't get anything going. I also think he got banged up in that game, and they kept him in there. And I think that drastically hurt the Buckeyes' offense that day. But no, you're spot on, man. I think Will Howard's a guy that is not a dual threat. He can use his legs, but he's not your traditional dual threat quarterback. And so if he does break out the scramble a little bit, he's a little mobile, but that mobility has really helped him. And it's been really an asset of his game. Pressure, and speeding up that clock. That's a recipe to mess up Will Howard on Saturday night.
Pressure on the interior, right? I mean, Tennessee will bring pressure all over the place, but I would imagine you want to start from the inside out.
That's what Michigan did. They used those 2 big guys up front to get pressure up the middle, where Will Howard can sometimes scoot up in the pocket. He wasn't able to do that. He does a good job rolling out too. So that's one thing. Like if you're able to get pressure up the middle, but you're not set the edge, he can roll out. And Chip Kelly will do a great job of getting him on the move to hit some of those receivers. So it's pressure the middle is the one thing that gets him to speed up his clock. I think pressure on the outside, I think he's able to handle that at a decent rate.
Nico Iamaliava, first-year starter, redshirt freshman. We know about his recruiting story. We know about the hype and all that. He just continues to get better. I think it was not fair to him. I don't think it was fair to Tennessee fans. The unrealistic expectations. Knew that was going to happen, obviously, fan short for fanatic, but I just think he keeps getting better, man. I mean, I think the sky's the limit for him. Is he all the way there yet? Heck no. He's going to be so much better next year than he is this year. Is he better now than when he was when Tennessee played Oklahoma or Arkansas or some of those early season games? For sure. I mean, he grew up in the second half, beat Alabama with a couple of good throws. Vanderbilt's Vanderbilt, I recognize that, but Tennessee allowed the opening kickoff to return back for a touchdown. Your All-American running back fumbled. Vanderbilt scores 3 plays later. You're down 14-0 with like 11 minutes to go in the first half. Like just 14-0 off the bus. and a couple third down throws, one being a touchdown. Nico stepped up huge and allowed that game to not get out of hand. And those are just two situations where they just come to mind for Nico. I think he's gotten better. He's improving. I don't think that his receivers have been fantastic this year. There have been some injuries there as well, but all those guys should be back and ready to roll in this game. I think Nico's got, obviously, a much, much, much higher upside. I think Howard's got more experience. He's been more battle-tested. Both, I think, will be relying on guys around them. I think Nico's, like Howard, maybe more so than Howard. Like, he's not a dual threat. They're not, I would love for them to call some design run plays for Nico, but I don't think they're going to make a habit out of that. But, like, his legs can hurt you for sure. He is a really mobile and athletic guy. So I think both these cats are going to be, hoping that guys around them can help them out a lot. They need to be, held upright in the pocket. But I do think Nico's got more ability, but I think Howard is more seasoned, if that makes sense. Running backs. Tell me about the two-headed monster. And from our last conversation, it just feels like, obviously those guys have had good years, but the overall rushing numbers are a little bit lower than what they should be because of that offensive line and the shuffling in front of them, right?
Two reasons. Offensive line, yes. I think that is a big one. I think Chip Kelly has struggled to use those guys this year. And I also don't believe that both of them have been able to get into a consistent rhythm, because you're only getting 8 to 10 carries a game, to where Henderson or even Judkins at Ole Miss, they're able to get 18 to 20 carries a game. So their ability to get into a rhythm, I do think, is hurt by, yes, the offensive line being banged up, but also Chip Kelly not really been able to find a good rhythm for either guy. Henderson's been the better back this year. I think Judkins can be better, should be better. I thought Judkins is going to go over 1,000 yards this year. I don't really have a good handle on what to expect in this game, because the offensive line at Ohio State is going to have a different guy at times than it had the previous 12 games. So as much confidence that I have in Judkins and Henderson's ability, my shakiness with what they'll do in this game is because I don't know what to get from the offensive line. I hate saying that, Eric. We all know O-lines are very pivotal, and without a good O-line, you're not going to be able to move the ball. I think if you just stick with the guys that you had the previous games, even if there's one massive weak link, the Buckeyes can still figure out some stuff on the ground and through the air. I hate to be this guy saying a couple of days before a big game that you're nervous about the Buckeyes rushing attack with those two guys being future NFL guys, but that's the reality right now. Yes, the rushing numbers are lower. It's not all because of the banged-up offensive line. They can't get into a rhythm. Chip Kelly, I think, has struggled with trying to figure out the right way to use them. And here we are right now, a couple of days before the biggest game of the year, and I'm not sure which guy's going to have the bigger game. It could be Henderson. It could be Judkins, or neither guy could have over 50 yards. Like, that's happened this year.
And that's why I'll give the edge to Tennessee's rushing attack, right? I think those two backs are so good, right? And, from a depth perspective, goodness gracious, what more could you want?
Right.
But what Tennessee has had in Samson and in this offensive line that has not been perfect, especially pass blocking, it's been a lot of growing pains. But like I told you a couple weeks ago, man, what Tennessee has done under Josh Hyple, and it's just so funny because from the outside looking in, everybody just thinks this is run and gun, West Coast, throw it all over the place. Tennessee runs the football, and Tennessee's averaged over 200. Tennessee has rushed for over 2,500 yards in all 4 seasons under Josh Hyple. This is a running football team, and where Josh Heupel's evolved a little bit is, when Nico in the receiving and the passing game has gone through those growing pains, Tennessee's had that running game with Samson this year, and Tennessee's had that defense. And to win games, Florida in overtime, Alabama, Oklahoma on the road, he's leaned on the run game and on his defense. He's rode that run game. He's had Dylan Sampson carry the football 27, 28 times, which, last year Tennessee had 3 running backs. Nobody got over 11 touches a game. Sampson's now getting close to 30 carries, and you've won games that way. So, I think Tennessee in a game like this, everybody wants to talk about the weather as well. I think certainly that can play into, both these teams wanting to run the football, and that's why I kind of give the edge to Tennessee in that offensive line, because I think they are just so equipped and they've been running the football at just such an elite level all year long. Wide receivers, take out of the Tennessee's wide receivers are so banged up. I think they're all going to play, but Brew McCoy didn't play the last game of the season. Dante Thornton, who's the big play guy, obviously you can see that on the stat sheet. He didn't play the second half against Vanderbilt. Squirrel White left the Vanderbilt game with a sling. your backup, your number 4 wide receiver hit the transfer portal. I mean, there's been a lot of movement and some injury situations, but I mean, still, I like Thornton, I like McCoy, I like Squirrel. But even if they were all 100% healthy, I mean, Ohio State's wide receivers are just fantastic. Ibuka, Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, just phenomenal guys. I feel like it's just a matter of Howard managing the game well, making the right decision, getting them the football, and letting them do the rest.
You're a smart man. Not even trying to I'm going to be with my guys. No, you realize that Ohio State's receivers literally are the best receiving room probably in the country. I don't say that loosely. But I think for this weekend that Ryan Day might show a little bit of the older Ryan Day, the pre-Chip Kelly offense, where it was pass, 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 with the run being a big factor too. I think it'd be more of a pass offense, more of an air raid offense than, hey, let's try to run between the tackles just because we got to. I don't think they will do that, but I don't think it'll be forced. I think they'll try to use the outside pass to open up running lanes up the middle. That's also going to help the Buckeyes offensive line that's really banged up. I want to not forget about Brandon Ennis, because I do think this is one of those games where you have a 4th receiver that would be a starter on other schools around the country, including in the SEC. He is a guy that has the ability to play the slot, to come off the bench, and to provide an immediate impact. And he could be a motion guy, move back and forth, be more of a scat back if you need him to, but he also can be a go-to receiver when he's on the field. We haven't really seen Ohio State run 4 wide at all. I think this could be a game where Ryan Day's like, look, we got to change some stuff up. Let me just do what we normally do. Chip Kelly, I'm telling you what to run. I'm telling you what the offense is going to be. And I think with Smith and Ibuka and Tate, you know what you got. But I think if there's 4 receivers out there at one time, there's not really a defense in the country that can guard that.
That IMG football team was talented.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
And all that. But yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, Tennessee, again, a little shorthanded wide receiver, but this could be the last game of the year. Don't hold anything back, right? It's the most important game of the year.
Yeah.
If you got them, be prepared to run them. And Tennessee will run a lot of 12 personnel. And they've done that at points in time this year, but Tennessee's tight and heavy. They've got 3 guys that they like, and I think that's something that Ohio State, will see a lot, and they've certainly studied that on the tape. But points in time, Tennessee will go two wide receivers, 3 tight ends, or 2 tight ends, and just go with it. What about these defenses? I mean, 2 really good defenses, 2 top 10 defenses in the nation. Probably should have let off with this conversation about the Tennessee and Ohio State defense, and then plus our game picks, all that and more as we continue on here with the Thursday Locked On Vols and Locked On Buckeyes. Get ready to tackle the NFL action this weekend in college football and in the NFL with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, get $150 in bonus bets if you win. FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and NCAA all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view the live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to go ahead and join the day. We'll talk about it here in segment number 3. Tennessee's a touchdown underdog, 7.5 the line there. That totals 46.5. That is a low total. Are we thinking it's going to stay under or over? That's coming up in segment number 3 for Tennessee at Ohio State in the college football playoff. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Again, that is at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every single moment more with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and it's where you can make every single moment more. Also want to give a shout out to Prize Picks, best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long, basketball as well, with Prize Picks, America's #1 fantasy sports app. Again, they give a projected stat value. You pick more or less, at least 2, no more than 6. It is that simple. You can do college football, NFL, NCAA, NBA, hockey, cricket's on there, soccer's on there, 2 to 6, more or less. It's as simple as that. Plus, when you download that PrizePicks app or go to PrizePicks.com, you put in that promo code LOCKEDONCollege, you're going to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, PrizePicks.com or PrizePicks app. Put in the promo code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 in lineup. Prize Picks, run your game all season long today. Thursday is here. Two more sleeps, and then we got to wait all day long. At least we'll have college football playoffs to watch. And then it is Tennessee, Ohio State. So jacked up, so pumped up. I wish this game was at Neyland, but I think the ability to host a playoff game is the coolest thing in this expanded era, and there's so many things they need to fix. I can't wait to see the shoe, man. I'm pumped up. Cross something off my bucket list. If Tennessee were to win, getting to cover the Rose Bowl, man, that'd be awesome. But again, first things first for both teams, no doubt. Let's talk about the defense. All right, tell me about Ohio State's defense. Caleb Downs, really good safety, great linebacker play, really stout against the run, really good on third downs, really good in the red zone. Again, if you want to go down and see like these big time stats, wherever you see Ohio State's name, you're going to see Tennessee either right before or right after.
Yeah.
Very similar defenses. Why is Ohio State so successful?
They don't really have a weakness, like a strong weakness at all. They're stout up front. They have guys up front that can get the job done. Their linebacker play has been maybe the most surprising thing about the defense this year, because from from game 1 to game 12, you saw drastic steps forward. Drastic steps up, taking leaps week after week after week. Sonny Styles moving from safety to linebacker. Once he figured out how to play that thing, got some games under his belt, you got to see him be a vocal leader on that side of the ball, along with Cody Simon, who is a seasoned vet in that room. Those two guys together they make a massive tandem up front. Tyleik Williams, Toy Below and Sawyer. I mean, those guys are not great names and great players. You add in Caleb Downs. You saw him last year. You saw what kind of player he is. And all of a sudden, he's a vocal leader on the defense, and he's keeping everybody accountable. He's the one flying around. He doesn't have not the leading tackler for Ohio State, but he may have the biggest impact for the Buckeyes defense, because a lot of what he doesn't show up in the stat sheet, at least in Columbus. And I do think this defense right now, safety play, you can't forget Lathan Ransom. Everybody focuses on Caleb Downs, and you have to. Lathan Ransom is right there as being one of the best safeties, better safeties in the country, and they just happen to be on the same team. Now, at times, the corners have been a little bit of a liability at times in one-on-one situations. They're literally just losing a one-on-one situation, 50-50 balls, and they're a step slow or a half step slow, or they're running through the receiver's hands and, they're a half second late. Like, they're that close. That stuff, I think, that can be fixed. Timing can be fixed. The defense, though, they found ways to stop the run. It's really hard to throw the ball on Ohio State, too. I mean, even though there's issues, like, I'm very critical, this Buckeyes defense, man, they're ready for the test.
So what you said about the Buckeyes safeties and corners, flip that, and I think that's Tennessee. Like, the safeties have not been bad. The safeties have certainly not been as good as Tennessee's corners. Tennessee's corners and Jermon McCoy, All-American. Ricky Gibson, both true sophomores, by the way. Ricky Gibson's been really, really good. I think I really like Jalen McMurray, who's kind of that third corner. Tennessee's corners have been good. And, even, it felt like, when Jalen Milroe and I think Taylon Green completed one, whenever some of these quarterbacks this year that has thrown McMurray's way, or not McMurray, McCoy's way, and they'll get one on him, it's like a hell of a throw, a hell of a catch. I mean, how in the world was that completed? Because McCoy, I'm talking about big play, right? Mm-hmm. Like, McCoy was all over that guy. It's been that, even when he gets beat, it's like, holy crap, that's just that was just one of those plays, right? Tennessee's corner has been good. Tennessee's safeties have been fine. What I'm going to be matched up, the matchup that I'm super intrigued with is the slot against Tennessee's linebackers / nickelback players / safeties. Whoever's primary coverage right there, because I think that can be an opportunity for Ohio State. Boo Carter, Tennessee freshman, he's been awesome. He's made an impact. Dude's going to be a baller. He's a baller right now. He's also a true freshman, and he's still learning, and he's still making mistakes. Tennessee's linebackers have been fine. They've certainly not been as good as they were prior to Keenan Peely's injury before the seasons. But anytime you want to take a linebacker, put him in space against NFL wide receivers, not the best matchup, right? So I'm kind of intrigued to see, obviously, Tennessee's corners against these wideouts, but the slot receiver against, depending on the coverage, who's going to cover that slot receiver, because I think that could be potentially advantage Ohio State. Tennessee's defensive line needs to have a day. All the talk going into the Tennessee-Georgia game was, oh man, Georgia's so beat up front. Georgia's got this starter out, that Georgia's just got walloped by Ole Miss. And it's like, okay, Tennessee's defensive line is licking its chops, ready to roll, and Tennessee's got one of the better defensive lines in the SEC. Same conversation heading into this one. However, in that Georgia game, just not effective. Tennessee had 2 TFLs, no sacks, just a complete non-factor. Tennessee's defensive line and front seven cannot be a non-factor in this game. As we talked about earlier, you have got to pressure Howard. You have got to force him into bad decisions, and that's what I'm going to be watching for. James Pierce on the edge is great. What about Omar Norman-Lott, Bryson Eason, Amari Thomas, those big boys up front in the interior? That's what I'm watching for in this game. So 2 great old school, low scoring, and that kind of brings us here to the end of the show. You've got Tennessee as a 7.5 point underdog. You got that total at 46.5. Jay, I think this is going to be a low scoring game, but I'll let you kick us off here first. Who do you have in this game, and does the game hit the over or the under?
I'll go with the under. I am probably going to go with the under in almost every playoff game if I were trying to pick a score, just because I don't see teams really going with the over in this one. Ohio State's defense is something you can believe in. Yes, Ohio State lost to Michigan. I'm not going to be naive and say that didn't happen. The defense only gave up 13 points.
And Tennessee lost to Arkansas too. So
I have questions about that one too, because I was like, why in the world did this even happen?
Again, in that game, Tennessee gave up 19 points.
Right?
It's like, yeah.
Right? But that should give a lot of Buckeye fans confidence, and even volunteer fans. You're saying, oh my goodness, like this defense did that day in that massive environment. We better bring our A game. And I think even if Tennessee brings your A game, and if Dylan Sampson comes in confident and he pops one, I don't think he'll pop multiple. I have Ohio State winning 24-20. And I was literally, before the show, I had the numbers. I didn't know if I would pick Ohio State or Tennessee because it's literally that type of matchup. Earlier I said it should be probably more of a 3.5 point spread. I literally think it's where it should be. I think these teams are too close, way closer than the 7.5 points that the Buckeyes are favored right now. I have Ohio State winning 24-20 and getting a rematch with Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
I like it. So you have the under by 0.5 point right there. Okay, I like that. Yeah, I like you, man. I mean, I could see. I've got the score in my head, and I'll say it out loud here in a moment. But I could see both teams being on either side of it.
Yeah.
Selection Sunday again, and we thought it was going to be Tennessee, Ohio State. There might have been Tennessee, Penn State, but I thought it was going to be Tennessee, Ohio State. And from the onset, I'm just like, okay, well, Ohio State's probably going to win this one. I think Ohio State's got the more talented roster, not by much, but I just think up and down the roster, it's more talented. They've recruited at a higher level for a longer period of time. I mean, Ohio State's one of the best teams in the country and has been for the last couple of years. Tennessee's not far behind, but man, it's the closer I get to kickoff, man, I'm just like, and maybe I'm just kind of buying into it a little bit, but I like Tennessee. I just kind of got this feeling, and I know that's kind of so lame to say, but I mean, I think Tennessee is going to run the football and find success running the football because Tennessee's done that every single game this year. I think Tennessee's going to shut down the run defensively because Tennessee, for the most part, has done that every single game. I think Nico is going to make one of those throws, maybe 2 throws in the game that, whether it's on third down or in the red zone or whatever the case is, that might make or break the game. I think Tennessee's defense is going to give the football to the offense, and something I haven't mentioned at all in this podcast, and maybe it's overblown, in the Ohio State circles, but if Tennessee can win early downs and Tennessee can move the sticks, Tennessee is going to attempt to smack Ohio State in the face with that tempo. Okay, we can talk about it. I think Ryan Day said it this week. You can't replicate it in practice. You can't do it. And Ohio State, but Tennessee's got to win the early downs because if you go 3 and out and you take 40 seconds off the clock, that's not helping anybody except Ohio State. So you get a first down, you win the early downs and all that. Tennessee's going to try to run that tempo, and if Tennessee can run with that tempo and control the pace of the game, watch out. I like Tennessee to win this one. I'll take, and it's wild because I didn't like Tennessee at first in this one, and I have I have pause in terms of Tennessee on the road. Give me Tennessee to win 24-21, and I will take the under just by 1.5 points there. And we'll see if Tennessee can win this big one on the road. Either way, man, it sounds like it's going to be an awesome game, and I think both fan bases are ready and juiced up, and I'm excited to see what the shoes got to offer. It should be a really, really cool showcase.
It should be a fun one. I will say this. I did see some clips of Dylan Sampson when he was running. I think once against Alabama, I don't know what the other game was, but fumbled a couple times.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And I
yeah.
do think this game is one of those where a Lathan Ransom or Jordan Hancock comes in second guy on the tackle, punches the ball out, and I think one of those fumbles will be the deciding factor in the game. It could be a fumble in the early part of the second quarter. I just think one of those fumbles, I think it'll get at least one fumble that is a recovered Buckeye fumble where that's a turning point. And I know Tennessee fans are going to hate that, but when you have a running back that's that talented but also has ball security issues, where you have guys on Ohio State's defense that are really good at punching a ball out, I think that's going to be one thing that could be a deciding factor in this game.
Hard to argue. Dylan Sampson, the SEC Player of the Year, an AP All-American. He's got 4 fumbles this year. All 4 were lost. 3 in the red zone, 1 inside your own 20. So they've all come at just horrible times. And like, it was a stretch where like he fumbled for 3 straight games. And that third, I think it was against Kentucky, his 3rd straight fumble or whatever. And like he played it right. Like he braced for contact, went down, 2 hands on the football, still fumbled. He went to the sideline and just threw his helmet because he's like, what the heck more can I do? But that's a really good point, and might have been one of the reasons why he wasn't a Doak Walker finalist, because he lost 4 fumbles this year. But something to pay attention to. Going to be cold, layer up. I'm super excited. Leading up to kickoff, of course, on tomorrow's show and something on Saturday as well. Vol fans, check out Locked On Buckeyes. If you're an Ohio State fan, I invite you to check out Locked On Vols to learn about your opponent, Tennessee and Ohio State in the college football playoff. And win, lose, or draw, they're not going to draw, but win or lose for your team, we're going to have you covered one way or the other right here on Locked On Vols or Locked On Buckeyes. For Jay Stevens, I'm Eric Kane. Thank you so much for joining us here on a Locked On crossover edition here ahead of the college football playoffs.